We just made a video about mecha games a while back and now struts in Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion. The first Daemon X Machina was a classic mech game that focused on customization and high action, heavy metal combat. And it's kinda weird that Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion ditched the mecha? Does Titanic Scion still have what was good about the first one, even without this core aspect? Let's talk about it. Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion starts out fierce. You wake up in captivity, seemingly being experimented on by the Axiom. Before things get worse, you're busted out by your friend, Nerve. You're both outers, people who have an affinity for femto, giving you extraordinary powers. Think of it like the new type of this universe. Femto is the energy source that keeps this world's civilization afloat, powering everything, especially the arsenals you jack while trying to escape the facility. You fight your way through with the arsenals you permanently borrowed, but at some point you're cornered. Nerve tries to hold off the forces chasing after you to give you some time to escape, and you do. However, you leave Nerve behind and you vow to get him back and get revenge on the Axiom at the same time. You fall down to the blue planet and are found by a group of humans who call themselves the Reclaimers. They're a group that fights against the Axiom's rule. That's great for us, you might think, but humans and outers have a strained relationship, making teaming up not as smooth of an experience as one might think. So our protagonist, needing the resources and the mechanics to upgrade our arsenal, tries to make allies with the Reclaimers in order to exact revenge on the Axiom. The story is definitely a lot more ambitious compared to the first title, with its interesting world building and colorful cast of characters. The characters feel less like stock anime personalities and have proper backstories and goals. Ash, for example, is a standout from the start as he hates your guts, and is the most suspicious of you when you meet because you're an outer. But the game gives a good reason for him to act this way around you. Also, it's refreshing having a character not kiss the ground you walk on just because you're the protagonist. The antagonists, the Noin, are also pretty colorful and full of personality, despite being mostly dressed in black. Also, what the heck is that? However, while it's an improvement, it's not a standout part of the game either. There's still this feeling of wanting more out of the characters, their stories, and their development. It still hasn't broken out of the "it's just there to give context to the mecha battles" level just yet. However, if that was the goal, it does a good enough job of it. You probably already could tell from the footage that we showed, and also because we talked about it at the start, but they made the decision that Titanic Scion was not gonna feature mechs. Instead, we got Iron Man-like exosuits called arsenals. While we're not dealing with mechs the size of buildings anymore, it still preserves the parts that make the mecha genre what it is: customization and build variety. Weight is the central idea. Every piece of gear you strap on affects how your arsenal moves, reacts, and even how much it can carry. Builds fall broadly into 3 weight classes: lightweight, midweight, and heavyweight. That should sound familiar to anyone who's touched a mech game in the last 2 decades. A lightweight frame is nimble and blessed with stronger laser defenses, perfect for closing distances or zipping out of a fight before the enemy can lock on you. However, push the weight limit with too many weapons and you'll be slower than the heavyweight arsenals. Heavyweight frames, on the other hand, thrive on sheer bulk. They soak up damage with a high vitality point (VP) pool and carry weapons that can turn immortals into dust in seconds, though they're about as graceful as a refrigerator. Midweights, unsurprisingly, are the middle ground. This weight system becomes the backbone for an expansive customization suite. We tried both a lightweight build and a heavyweight build. The lightweight build gives you the literal rush of closing gaps in seconds, paving the way for hit-and-run tactics. Heavyweight builds can give you the sheer tank ability to take hits while you're immobile and carefully aiming the biggest overcompensatonator out there, and the audacity to just walk up to an enemy right to their face to bonk the living daylights out of them. But of course, each has its cons too. Lightweights usually have less VP, and therefore, if you're not executing the run portion of the hit and run, you're getting the hit, and not in a good way. Heavyweights are, as you can probably guess, heavy and trade maneuverability and speed for tankiness. Customization fundamentally alters how you interact with every fight. Armors, weapons, attachments that tweak resistances and stats, all of these can be scavenged from downed enemies or developed back at the base. You could even mix and match from the different armor weight classes so you could find your own Goldilocks loadout that's just right for you. The loop of experimentation, failure, especially if you're in the higher difficulties, and reinvention is constant, and it's a big part of why this game is so enjoyable. Things get even more interesting with the fusion system, which lets you tinker not just with your arsenal's weapon skills, but your own body. By splicing your body with femto mutations, you can unlock abilities like creating decoys, camouflaging, and auto-dodging. These abilities burn your stamina faster and your character will slowly take on a more mutated appearance. I have no doubt though that many fans will spend hours min-maxing their builds with the system. Just be careful as removing a mutation will cost a large amount of money, so be sure you're committed to your choices. One of the more ambitious changes in Titanic Scion is the jump from mission-based tiny areas to a more open-world format. This time around, you can explore a massive map with your arsenal, where you can grind for loot, extract resources, find collectibles, and of course, take on side missions. Instead of being ushered from one contained fight to the next, you can now set your own pace, choosing whether to gun straight towards the objective or get sidetracked by whatever mechanical monstrosity happens to be stomping around in the distance. I am a sucker for these kinds of exploration. It takes me back to Skyrim and BOTW2OTK, where I would just see something standing out in the distance and be compelled to see what it is. And with the arsenal, getting around is a breeze, as you can choose to either sprint to your destination or fly around. I would usually just fly around as it feels fun flying around in a big hunk of metal. Of course, fast travel exists, but you have to unlock it by finding fast travel points in the first place. There are quite a few points of interest that you'll find just roaming around the vast map, like side bosses, resources, and even Axiom caravans transporting goods that you could intercept to take the items for yourself. The visuals look great if they weren't on the Switch too. The game is noticeably stuttery, texture quality, especially in the environment, is very much toned down so the Switch can even run the game. Elements would pop into existence, sudden texture loading is obvious and jarring, and even cutscenes suffer from these problems. It's very apparent, especially if you just started the game, but you do adjust and get used to it. So if you're planning to get this game and the Switch 2 is all you have, yeah, sure, you could probably get used to it. But if you have the luxury of having a different means of playing the game, be it a more powerful PC or PS5 Xbox, just save yourself the trouble and get it for those platforms instead. Despite the technical difficulties on the Switch 2, the charm and intricate design that went into this game still shone through. It's just not given the processing power it needs to do it justice on the Switch 2, sadly. The voice cast delivers just as strongly here as in the first game, with no one phoning it in and every pilot sounding distinct enough to cut through the fights.
何が目的だ?あなたたちはそうやってすぐに武器を構えて争いたがる。私たちのアーセナルを動かすフェムと、これを生み出す木々や原石は何か知っている?
Arsenals hum and whir and slam with a mechanical weight that makes every movement feel good. Combat is underscored by a guitar-heavy soundtrack that keeps pace with everything going on during fights. However, as strong as the game's audio is, I did run into a few odd moments where the battle music wouldn't stop even after returning to base. It's not game-breaking, but it's kinda weird. So Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion. It makes a slight improvement on the story by having more colorful characters, but doesn't take the step further to take it from okay to good, or even great. They take out building-sized mechs in favor of exosuits, but still retain that mecha game spirit by keeping the game customization and build-focused. The fusion system gives you more to tinker with, as you can even modify your flesh and blood body to learn skills as well. The game also gives you a huge open-world playground to explore. However, we really recommend getting the game anywhere other than the Switch 2, as the Switch 2 struggles to run the game in a way that does the game's visuals justice. All that said, we're giving Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion an 84. How about you? Are you planning on getting the game? Have you played it already? What do you think of the change from mechs to exosuits? Tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching, like if you like, subscribe for more video game reviews and other video game related content. This has been Game 8, and we'll see you next time.